Public Theater. I'm Oscar Eustace, Artistic Director here, and I'm very happy to host today's inaugural HeForShe Arts Week press conference here in Joe's Pub. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones, no flash photography during the press conference. For those of you who aren't familiar with the public, let me just say a couple of things about the Public Theater. This theater was founded, the basic idea of this theater was democratic access. It's the idea that the culture belongs to everybody, and that New York is at its best, and that the world is at its best when everybody gets to tell their story, when everybody gets to be the protagonist of their own life, and when equality rules. The theater is fundamentally a democratic art form, and we have pioneered that art form. We have pledged ourselves to equality and to democracy and to inclusion for over 60 years. From Shakespeare in the Park, to the work that we do down here in Lafayette, to the mobile unit which travels around the city, all 5 boroughs, delivering work to the most underserved parts of our population. And of course, we've put a tremendous amount of emphasis on gender parity, the inclusion of women, from whether it's from top girls, for colored girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough, Caroline or Change, Fun Home, Grounded, or the extraordinary Eclipse that we opened up on Broadway just a couple of days ago, a groundbreaking work on Broadway. Always women have been at the center of what the Public Theater does. So today, I'm going to be joined on stage in a minute by some of really extraordinary people who honor us, honor the theater, and honor New York by being on stage with us. Artist, social activist, and UNESCO Special Envoy for Peace, Forrest Whitaker. UN Women Global Goodwill Ambassador, Emma Watson. UN Women Executive Director, Pumzela Mlambo-Luka. And the First Lady of New York City, Lang before she gets up to the microphone. This is a woman who has done so much to make New York City a more equitable place. As First Lady, she's a fierce advocate for high quality, accessible mental health services. She knows that for far too long, New Yorkers experiencing mental health challenges have been left without the support and services they deserve. This year, she has committed herself to the creation of a mental health roadmap, which will set a citywide agenda to address the gaps and disparities in mental health care. In addition to mental health, she has lent her voice and position to furthering the administration's efforts to expand early childhood development and support the survivors of domestic violence. She's also proud to serve as chair of the Mayor's Fund to Advance New York City. The goal of the fund is to make sure all New Yorkers have access to the programs and resources they need to achieve their full potential. As chair, Ms. McCrae brings leaders in the private and public sectors together to support Mayor Bill de Blasio's progressive agenda. It was while working for Mayor Dinkins that she met Bill de Blasio. Mayor de Blasio and Ms. McCrae have 2 wonderful children. We all know them, Chiara and Dante. And you can learn more about her work at flow.nyc, where she shares her stories, poems, photos, and videos. She invites New Yorkers to help her make the greatest city in the world even greater. The First Lady of New York City, Shirley.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Oscar. I'm so grateful to everyone at the Public for serving as our inaugural partner for HeForShe Arts Week. Bill and I are also thankful to the Public for working with us on ID NYC, our new free identification card for all New York City residents. It's wonderful. Well, lining up to get it. And because to paraphrase Shakespeare, the public recognizes that all the world's a stage for advancing social justice. That is also the idea behind HeForShe Arts Week. And I'm so pleased to see that we have Penny Abiwardena, our Commissioner of Office of International Affairs, here with us today. Penny, put your hand up. Our Executive Director and Commissioner on Gender Equity. And Maya Wiley, Counsel to Mayor de Blasio. Commission on Gender Equity, I am a fierce believer that government must play a central role in creating a city where every girl and woman feels safe and is treated fairly. That is why I was so proud to visit the United Nations and sign the document that made New York the first city in the United States to join the Safe Cities Global Initiative. We are now working hard to make all of our public spaces free from sexual harassment and all forms of sexual violence. But government alone cannot end gender discrimination. That is why, as an artist and lover of the arts, I am so excited about HeForShe Arts Week. And I can't think of a better place to launch this campaign than New York City. After all, the first International Women's Day was held right here in 1908. It's true. 15,000 women marched through these streets from the Lower East Side to Union Square, demanding better pay, demanding voting rights, and demanding shorter work hours. So much has changed since 1908, but New York is still a pioneer in women's rights. And with the launch of HeForShe Arts Week, just a few blocks from Union Square, we are once again harnessing the tremendous energy of New York City to advance the cause of equality. Now, HeForShe is based on a simple concept. All of us have a role to play in achieving gender equity. That means we need everyone to understand in their minds and in their hearts why gender equality is good for everyone. And no one is better at influencing the way we think and feel than our city's great artists. Over the coming week, our city's dancers, actors, musicians, artists, visual artists, will all push the needle on gender equality forward by moving us to consider what's at stake here. And I urge all New Yorkers to go out and see, listen, taste, touch, and feel as many of these works of art as you can. Because I can't think of a better way to help build the 50-50 future we all deserve. It is now my great honor to introduce my friend, my sister and partner, Madam Phumzile Malambo Nikuka, the Executive Director of UN Women. And although we've been working together for quite a while now, her brilliance and her passion are as contagious as ever. And I think that's because she knows, as do I, that the world of imagination is powerful and boundless. Madam Phumzile, the stage is yours.
Thanks so much, Shalene, for brilliant remarks, as always. Thank you, Oscar, for your warm welcome. And of course, we recognize our stars and the wonderful people that make life worth living. Sometimes when it's hard, you just need artists to help you have the strength to go on. So it's a great pleasure to address you here at the Public Theatre, a cultural center for New York. Thank you for being here to inaugurate Arts Week. Today, we recognize extraordinary power of the arts. Through arts, we can challenge norms peacefully, yet provocatively. We can bring people together across lines of identity that might otherwise divide us. And here today, you are all using that power to address one of our world's most persistent injustices, the fight for gender equality. Today is International Women's Day, and happy International Women's Day. Creative, unifying ways to move ahead with changing the status quo. Since the launch of HeForShe in 2015, the campaign has reached the millions of people around the world, reinforcing the fact that gender equality is not just a women's issue. We have heads of states, we have leaders of universities, we have leaders of corporations, all leading from the front. But awareness alone is not enough. We are calling for action, and these people that are leading from the front are enabling us to see actions on the ground. We must continue to find new ways to challenge prejudices, new ways to look at the world, and make sure that boys and girls, men and women are together in this. There is no better way to do this than through the arts, which are an integral part of our everyday life. They reflect and shape our sense of identity, our attitude, and our cultural values. I hope this partnership with the arts community will foster new questions and new conversation on women's rights. I know firsthand as a South African about the power of the arts. Do you remember? Free Nelson Mandela. And what happened? It is with that knowledge and that first-hand experience that I believe in what we're doing today. And now, I would love to invite to the stage UN Women's Global Ambassador, Emma Watson, who is the woman that has made HeForShe the global and the most loved campaign that it is today. Emma, over to you.
Good morning. First of all, I'm so grateful to Charlene and to the City of New York for hosting HeForShe Arts Week. I love this city. I've studied here, I've lived here, I've made films here, I've seen great art here, and I'm very, very grateful. Thank you. There's a great quote from a woman who happened to be both an artist and an activist, and one of my favorite women, Maya Angelou. She said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." It's one of the reasons that I am an actress. It's why I love what I do. It's what the arts do. If it's done well, they make you feel. And with HeForShe, we're trying to build a global community with people from all walks of life and all genders to create a new normal, societies of equality. Study after study shows us that logic and the value of gender equality in commerce, politics, peace building, the list is infinite. But we have to do more than help people see the logic with their minds. It's also about making them feel it in their bones, viscerally, emotionally. This is what changes us. It's what makes us act. You can't unwatch great films. You can't unread incredible books. You can't unsee groundbreaking art. They change you forever. And that's why great movements of social and human progress have always been illuminated by great art. Social progress can inspire art, and so the arts can inspire social progress. HeForShe Arts Week is the next page in that story, and I'm very proud to be launching it today. Thank you so much for being here.
So we are moving into the portion where we have a conversation with Forrest and Emma. It's an honor to have you both here today with us. And before we get into business, I think a lot of our viewers, this is being live streamed by the way, around the world, I'm sure they would love to know these incredible individuals behind some of the most important movements in the world today. I want to start with you, Forrest. You are undeniably one of the prominent artists in the world today. But beyond this, you are also an envoy of UNESCO. You were recently appointed as an advocate by Secretary General Ban Ki-moon for the SDGs. So obviously, you're not busy at all. I want to go back to 2012. You started your own foundation. Can you tell me more about this, and why did you decide to focus on peace and development?
Yeah, I started working with child soldiers there, and by working with them, I was able to start to understand some of the conflicts that they were dealing with were, and also to hear some of their individual stories. And the stories about how they were dealing with their lives really struck me. Actually, it was one girl in particular, her name was Stella. And she said to me, she was in a internally displaced camp, and she was in a camp, and she was surrounded by people, but totally isolated. And I spoke to her, and she said, they tell me that I'm crazy, but maybe I am, because I don't know why I behave the way I do. And they tell me that I'm stupid. Maybe I am, because I don't do the things or know what to do in all the situations. I've been a soldier since I was a child. And I watched this woman who was like totally isolated in this environment, and I said to myself, how does she reintegrate? How does she reconcile with this community? How can the community heal themselves from the anger they have towards her, and her be able to bring peace to herself? And so, from that, recognizing this internal conflict and this conflict of violence that occurs all over the world, I decided that perhaps I could be one of the participants to be able to work alongside them to help build peace builders and community builders. So I started what is the WPDI, American Peace and Development Initiative, to work in countries all over the world. We're in 5 now, and as well as the US, it deals with gangs and violence and profiling, which is all over to find some form of healing for the pain and the conflicts that are going on in the world right now today.
Yeah, and I think, this is so timely. I think when you look at the conflicts happening in the world today, where it's a sad reality that in most countries, women are sitting in a refugee camp instead of the negotiation table. So how are you doing, what exactly are you doing to change that? I know you have some work with women as well, young girls in ICT.
Yeah, we have our programs are really trying to find gender equality in every aspect. Of course, you can't really find peace in the world if 50% of the world is women and they're not included in the same conversation. They have to be not only the brains behind, but also the instigators of a lot of our movement towards peace. I guess for ourselves, we have some of our programs, like we have one in South Africa, in Hamburg, where we work with 5 women there, and they're peace builders that have helped rebuild the community there. By rebuilding, I mean they're building homes, schools, and bringing peace to the community. And then we try to find gender equality inside of all of our programs. We've been pretty successful in South Sudan. In the beginning program, we had about 40%. But then this last program we were working on, we only got 20%, which has been a struggle because of the different mores and the culture itself. But what we've done is by training the people around them in gender sensitivity, we're now sending them out to the villages to hopefully be able to find, with the help of actually with UN Women, we have a partnership with UN Women on this aspect of getting more women involved in the villages. And so when we get those women involved in the villages, it's really helpful. In those places we've had, computer centers, literacy centers. We haven't been able to get the women involved in there because of the social mores, because of the taboos and stuff. But then when we started to meet with the women leaders, they were able to help guide us to a way to fill those classrooms with women later. So it's a process that really is ongoing, but will continue to keep going.
And Emma gave some interesting statistics on this as well.
Yeah, so when I was looking into what you do, Forrest, which blew my mind, by the way, because I'm obviously well acquainted with your work and I'm such a huge admirer of yours, and then to look at your initiative and the work that you're doing, I was just amazed. But I started doing some research into women and peacekeeping, and even though we know that when women are involved in peacekeeping, peace is more sustainable, only 1 in 40 peace treaty signatories in the last 25 years were women. 1 in 40. So that made me realise how important what you're doing and making sure that we have parity in peacekeeping, and we're finding women leaders who have voices.
Yes, definitely, and also with the grassroots portion of it. there's a lot of women who like are working, because when you go to peace conferences, you see a lot of, they'll have most of the rooms filled with women, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of people working on a grassroots level, making things happen, but I think as you're talking about on the level that you're discussing, there's a disparity, and it has to be worked on. The same disparity that happens all over the world with, like, take for instance in our Congress, there's only like 19% women in the United States Congress. So there's 50% women in the country. Same thing all over the world. There's all these different statistics about government, and when you look at 20%, I think all the countries, there's like 22% of them are in parliament. We're talking about Congress for the U.S. and the parliaments the rest around the world, and it's just something that has to be dealt with. We have to lift up and start to recognize and start to elect individuals to office so that those voices can be really heard and help build society where it should be built.
So this is something that's very personal to both of you. I think, it's safe to say that you get it, you understand why it's important. But I also want to hear, as you've engaged with other men, what are some of the sort of craziest things you've heard when you're talking about gender equality?
I hear lots of things, but I think there's there was a story that a minister told me once, and like, I mean, it only applies because I think underneath all of this, there's always this sort of insidious things in the bed that has to be corrected with people's psyche, the way they think about things. But this guy told me, he said that, they had dowries in his country, and he said that, what would he look like if his daughter went to university, which he said his daughter to University of London, and then she comes back, and he doesn't receive, or she doesn't receive a dowry. How much does it lower her stature? How much does it make her look small and her not be important? So it's a really interesting thing, because I disagree with him, but I understood what he was saying. I was saying this has to be dealt with on a level that's so deeply embedded. Because he's saying everybody will tell you that they don't do this. He said, but I'm just being honest with you. And this is a minister. He said, this is really the way it is, And I guess we have to keep looking and see to make sure that this kind of thinking starts to be reframed, that we can like break those frames and create new frames so that we can start to think about it differently, so we can understand it. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think one of the interesting ways that Forrest and I, in the line of works that we do, when I think about the performing arts and how we perceive masculinity, and still how kind of rigid sometimes those definitions and those ideas of what a leading man can and can't do, and how he should and should act. And when I think about films like The Pursuit of Happiness, where you see a man in the role of a primary caregiver, where you see Billy Elliot, The Color Purple, Brokeback Mountain, you see these pieces of art challenging those very rigid definitions. And I wanted to reference as well, Sam Taylor Johnson did a beautiful series of photographs called Crying Men, which Forrest was part of, which really challenged the notion that men don't have tear ducts. It's a very confusing notion. Anyway, all of these things challenge these perceptions, and they make the roles that each of us get to play more complex, more whole, more real, more authentic. They make our jobs more interesting and truthful. I think gender equality does that.
I think that's an important segue into speaking about the arts, given that this is HeForShe Arts Week. We know, Emma, a lot of the emails we get from our male supporters, again, is around this refinement that they feel in terms of what it means to be a man, and the pressure of what that looks like. And we know more so that it's even more complex for men in the performing arts, especially guys that want to dance. And in 1988, William L. did a very powerful study where he went in a shopping mall and interviewed shoppers and asked them to describe in 15 words or less what a male ballet dancer is. And some of the words were very, very hurtful. It was homosexual, frail, vain. What has been your own personal experience with discrimination in the arts?
Discrimination in the arts?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I would say the biggest area of contrast for me has actually not been within the arts itself, but within probably the entertainment media and tabloids. I mean, I was obviously a child actress who is still making a transition, and thank you. I appreciate that. No, and I remember, you know, on my 18th birthday, I came out of my 18th birthday party, and photographers lay down on the pavement and took photographs up my skirt, which were then published on the front of the English tabloids the next morning. If they published the photographs 24 hours earlier, they would have been illegal, but because I turned 18, they were legal. And obviously, you know, Dan and Rupert, who are my male co-stars, don't wear skirts. But I think that's just one example of how my transition into womanhood was dealt very differently by the tabloid press than it was for my male.
Forrest, do you have anything to answer this one?
I mean, I think it's funny because like when I started early in the 80s and stuff, I was playing football, varsity football team, you know, and at the same time I was doing musical. And I remember coming to the football field and all the guys like imitating this dance that they'd seen me do, you know. And
Do you want to show us?
I actually still remember the move. It wasn't very complicated. but I think at the time there was also a lot of badgering and stuff, and I think hopefully some of that's changed now. You know, I think certainly we've moved forward in some ways, and roles are blurring. At least we have, like, I don't know, the most successful movie of all time. You have a female warrior, you know what I mean, fighting forward, and you have like you know, Danish girl, you know, and different issues, and so that, you know, there's all these different things. I guess what I'd like to say is just that what we have to do as artists is to like really recognize the sort of images that we're projecting and what we're doing, and because I was thinking, when I was thinking about this conversation, there was something that I'd heard, which was about women and sexualization of women, talking about film, and just saying that, you know, women are extremely more sexualized than men in film, and that this is done in G movies as well as R movies. So our little kids are like still being framed in that example. But I think one of the other things that was really big was the thing that it said that 90% of the role models of the men who are portrayed as professionals, 90% of those people in film are men, you know? And I was like, wow, what kind of images are we projecting? What are we imprinting in our own minds and imprinting in our children's minds? And we have to like look at that. And I guess that's my thought about it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I know we want to wrap up because we want to give media partners an opportunity to ask questions, but I do want to end on a positive note, focused on solutions. Emma, you have been incredibly passionate about this issue, and what most people don't know is that you actually work full-time on the HeForShe leadership team, which has also inspired, you know, your decision to take a year out. What's next in terms of gender equality, and also, you know, what can other people do to support?
I think a big part of it is certainly a recognition of the problem and of the work that, you know, we have to do, and then, but also being inspiring by the amount of momentum and all of the success that we're having. I think the development goals where we've outlined what we can achieve by 2030 are really great to have as a kind of, you know, to set a bar, to set a standard, to set something to aim for and galvanize around. You know, I think that it's how we live our own lives and in our daily lives, and then being involved with the amazing work that Forrest does with HeForShe. We just launched a new website earlier this year, which we're trying to build a kind of solutions, or a toolkit, and we really want to crowdsource as many different strategies from all over the world that we can, to try and build a really comprehensive guide to how we can make a tangible difference and how we can really, you know, kind of make it happen. So yeah, lots of ways.
Thank you so much, Emma. Forrest, last thing for you. people in the room, people watching from around the world, what can they do standing today to support the important work that you're doing on peace and development?
Well, I mean, they can go to the website, wpdi.org, just to get more information and data for themselves about what they would like to do. I think certainly if they want to make some form of donation, that would be helpful to the people on the ground. But I think most importantly, like the great work that she's doing and continues to do, there's an opportunity here to look at the philosophy. And the philosophy is that we can all make an impact and all make a difference. And if you just choose in your own grassroots way even how you want to activate, how you want to allow something to change, to become change makers, and take that philosophy to become change makers, to make the world become the thing that we would like it to be. I think that's the most I would hope for coming out of that.
Very powerful remarks. A round of applause. Okay, so we are going to take questions from members of the press. Again, let's make sure the questions are focused on today's topic. State your name, be brief, and then get to the question. There's a roaming mic somewhere in the room, so I'll take the first question, please.
Do you hear me? Oh, thank you. So the question is for everyone, but I'm going to be specifically with Emma because it's about millennials, and I would like to know as an Hispanic.
So may you state your name and affiliation, please?
Yes, People Magazine, and my name is Laura.
Okay.
The question is, how can we really do something hands-on as Hispanic millennials or any millennials? Through social media, or is there any volunteer, anything that we can do hands-on?
Yes, I mean absolutely. It's a daily practice. It's about awareness. It's about being conscious, in our daily lives. There's a really interesting definition which I found recently, which is to be an active bystander. And what that means is that often when we see conflict or we see things that we're not really comfortable with, it kind of feels easier to look the other way, or we don't feel that it's our place, or it's not the right moment, or it would be easier to kind of just let this happen quietly, and actually empowering people to know and to think that it's their role when they see something that isn't right to say something about it, and that's how we define being an active bystander. And when you talk to most women and when you talk to most men, they can name a moment in their lives when they were a witness to a moment where a man or a woman was treated unfairly because of their gender. And it just takes someone just calling it out, and it can be done in lots of different ways, but being an active bystander.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question because the first lady has to go. Otherwise, it will be protocol faux pas if I don't let her leave on time. I'll take one question. This one here up here.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm a Thai magazine. And seeing as this is the week of the arts, and Emily, you started the book club, Our Shared Shelf, I wanted to see if you guys could talk, as all of you could mention some books that you've recently read that have really impacted you as far as feminism, and some books that you're looking forward to reading that are coming out soon.
Okay, one book per person. Oscar, we'll start with you.
Well, I can't talk about a book so much as I can talk about a play, because I do plays for a living. And, for me, Denai Guerrera's Eclipsed has been just a life-changing experience. And watching a group of African women tell their own story, first here at the Public and then on Broadway, and watch Denai's commitment. There are no men in the play, not because there are no men in these women's lives, because as she said, she needed to get the men out of there because they sucked up all the air in the room, and let those women be the protagonists of their own lives, which is something that by doing it on the stage, we're modeling doing it in real life. And that, feels like it's actually changing the world.
I'm also going to mention a play and an author. Motherstruck by Stacey Ann Chen is just amazing, compelling work of art by a woman who is gay and Jamaican and just talk about intersectionality. She really covers it all. I strongly encourage everyone to go take a look at it. We also recently celebrated what would have been the 82nd birthday of Audre Lorde, who continues to be an inspiration to me every day of my life, and I read her all the time.
And I also see it's about a movie, documentary, Girl in the River, which just won an Oscar, which is about honor killing in Pakistan. It's not because she's a partner of ours that I'm so fond of her, but really the story is really, really powerful and highlights the extreme form of violence that women experience. But the good story is that as a result of that movie, the government of Pakistan is likely to pass a law that outlaws honor killing, and this movie was part of the campaign.
Our Shared Shelf book this month is a book by Bell Hooks. It's called All About Love, New Visions, and it's wonderful. I finished it yesterday. And I was very inspired. I interviewed Malala Yousafzai last year, and there's a wonderful documentary about her activism, how she became an activist, why it's still so important to her. And I would say that inspired me a lot too.
Just read a book called Consciousness by Ramesh. I see it as in some ways dealing with feminism because it's dealing with the human soul and about completeness and wholeness and being able to completely express yourself and understand your place in the universe. So it's
Bring this to a close. I am loath to close because this has been a great event. These are extraordinary people who are helping to change the world. And really, I want to thank you for coming to the public. I want to thank the UN. I want to thank the HeForShe campaign. I want to thank the First Lady of New York City. And I want to thank all of you for being here and to just remember that the arts really can make a difference. The arts can change the world, and this is how we do it. Thank you.